All right, we are about to go live, everyone. Oh, we're live. So, good morning, everybody. My name is Tom, and I'm from the Transition Foundation. And we're just going to shoot a quick, we're doing a quick live stream. It'll probably go for about 45 minutes to an hour. And I know that we've started probably about 15 minutes late, but that's just normal. Always got technical issues, and don't worry, there will be a time where you could view this presentation again. We're going to start very soon. I'm going to introduce Graham and Kelly in a second. But before I do that, I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm just going to point out how I got up to this conversation in my life, basically. And these were the important points that I realized. So, I was running a business for about 2-3 years, and I got to the point where I started realizing all the social problems, and I really wanted to not just build a business for making money and living, a lifestyle or an expensive lifestyle, but I started being so aware of the social problems on the planet that I really wanted to make a difference. And I got to the point where I was thinking, I'm really, there were so many problems. I thought I'm just sacrificial for humanity, and it started leading me into another different business spaces. But one of the things I really struggled with was building a business in the corporate world. That it just, there's so many regulations and so many things that just really hold you back, and it was really difficult. Then I discovered a TED talk by a guy called Dan, and he was talking about how, the old way of making charities and NGOs is dead, and there's a whole new way, and it's about building businesses that can scale and build these social enterprises. So one of the things I really want you to understand from this live presentation, and I know we've got a lot of people on the call, is that, we are, for me, especially as well, I've been an internet entrepreneur for the last 10 years, fully thought I was aware of my options, and I completely wasn't, okay? And one of the things I want you to take away from this quick presentation today is to make you realize that we're not really aware of the options that we can, of the spaces of the business spaces that we can operate in, and you're probably going to be listening to this talk today and realizing that you've got friends or people who are trying to make businesses that truly serve people, and they're not aware of their options as well. So your brain's probably going to be really start buzzing about all the possibilities that can happen and how you can really make a difference in people's lives. And these private foundations, these types of structures are the best ones I've found to date, which is pretty cool. And one of the main things also is that this is really just an empowerment conversation for you to really make sure that you're completely aware of your options. And I'm sharing my screen. I will just bring that back. And we've got some business professionals on the line who can. I'm going to be asking them some questions over the next 45 minutes. And there was one really other important part. Oh yes, that's the other part. So a lot of people think when you start operating in a non-profit space or the NGO space, they think, oh, but my business, I can't do that. But that's not the case, okay? We are all in service of humanity, whether we like it or not. We've all got to make the world a better place. And so if you run an IT business, if you help people, hypnosis, or pretty much any business that's not sucking the world dry of its resources, is a business in service of humanity. And so if you offer a service, or I really think it's really an idea or a time where you can really start opening up your brain, and I know your brain's going to be buzzing with excitement, then you probably are suitable to operate in the NGO space. And in these private foundation spaces, which Graham and Kelly are going to share with us today. So I'm really excited. I'm going to introduce you to Kelly and Graham. So Graham is an accountant at New Call Accounting, and I'll just get you to say hello. And Kelly operates from Foundation Structures, which is, when I found out about these guys about 10 months ago, it just blew me away. So I'd like to introduce you guys to Kelly and Graham.
Good morning, everybody.
So, okay, so we have got a lot of people on the call. I'm surprised by how many people are on here. And we've got Kelly here. Give us a wave, Kelly, all the way in Brisbane. I'm up in Mackay at the moment. And I don't think we can hear your sound, Kelly. We're having technical issues there. We could hear it before. Maybe just unplug your headphones and plug it back in. Or just try and talk without headphones.
How's that?
Perfect. Brilliant.
Okay, cool.
So we've got the wonderful Kelly and we've got the wonderful Graham. So I've really just prepared some questions because when I started operating in the NGO space, people started asking me a lot of questions about, Tom, how do you do this? This is a completely new, different thing. Normally people are quite indoctrinated. They go when they want to start a business, they go and, they go and make an ABN or an ACN, or they go and do all these things. And there's a lot of different options that we have as living, breathing human beings. I'm quite sweaty up here in Mackay. So I'm just going to go through and ask you these questions, if you don't mind. And these are questions that I've compiled from even while I was organising this event. People were asking me questions, so I put them on the sheet as well. And you guys can ask questions as well on the page, on the live stream page, which I will watch. But probably like a lot of the questions I'm going to be asking anyway in the right time. So I'm going to bring up my question sheet. All right. So I think the first question is, what is the purpose of foundation structures and new call accounting? I think we'll direct this question at you, Graham, first.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. New call accounting was created in about November 2013, following my original introduction to the concept of private business structures back in about 2009. During that intervening time, I was able to, meet with lots of clients who were interested in this space and help them to transition their businesses to a more optimal business structure. So New Call Accounting was created in nearly 2 years ago now to basically specialise in clients who had a private business structure either as their sole entity or as part of a group of entities that ran their business and their financial affairs. And as a result of that, New Call has developed some fairly unique expertise in this space and continues to do so. I would say probably 90% of our clients would be one in business, obviously, and two be connected with a private foundation.
Cool, that's pretty exciting. One of the things that really blew me away with you, Graham, was when I met you. Like I've dealt with a lot of accountants over the time, and a lot of the accountants, they're kind of like, they're sort of like the watchdogs of different governments and things like that, and they don't really truly serve the human being, their clients, as much, because I think it's a fear-based mentality that we live in the society. And so I never come across such a mind-expanding accountant. So it's very exciting.
Just to expand on that, I think you're right. I think a lot of tax accountants take the title of tax agent a bit too literally, and I think they forget that they act for their client, not for the tax office. Not saying that that there's anything wrong with having good compliance and good numbers and things like that to make good decisions, but certainly my perspective has always come from how do I help my client achieve their objectives, and how can I best assist them in reaching their full financial potential.
Yeah, it's more of a truly empowerment process and an awareness process.
Correct.
So Kelly, I'm going to cross over the camera to you, and I really want to ask you, what's the purpose of foundation structures?
The purpose of foundation structures is to literally bring back equality within business structures, to make sure that there's no hidden agenda, to give people exactly what they want without terms and conditions that are that small that you can't even read them, or they're that long that they take that long to read that by the end of them you've forgotten what you started reading in the first place. So basically we're just here to assist people to help them be in a space so that they can minimize and manage their cash flow, so they can have financial optimum financial security, and know that wherever their funds go, it's their choice. Okay, so we help
Financial
people.
control.
Financial control. We help people be aware of all their options.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's, yeah. It's, I mean, you know, I think, you know, when you're dealing with for-profit businesses, you know, oftentimes they've got a lot of different agendas, and you know, they probably leave people in the dark about what options that they really have available. So I guess, you know, these non-profit entities, you know, that don't have these, you know, obviously humans have got human agendas, but don't have as much emphasis on the profit side of things, or the corporate profit side.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot more trust in foundations, and that's one of the things I found out. You know, dealing with foundations and NGO space, there's a lot more trust in the whole space. I feel like the corporate structure is slowly, you know, dismantling itself from the inside. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's really exciting. And the exciting thing is that we actually help support people through the whole process of setting up a foundation, and we have additional products that endeavour people to move completely into the private and be totally in control of their whole finances, which is so powerful that people just get blown away. And when we actually set people up, and you know, they have no more questions, and they're
It sounds pretty
ready,
good, I know.
ready and raring to rock and roll, they are on the biggest high that, you know, you could ever possibly be on, because they never ever imagined that it was possible.
I'm still on my high. Yeah, no, that's the thing. We're not aware of our options. So I'm going to ask you the next question. How long has Foundation Structures been helping small businesses restructure in the NGO space?
Oh, sorry, I missed that, Tom. It
Yeah,
cut out a little bit. Can you please
that's
say
all
that
right.
again?
How long has Foundation Structures been helping small businesses restructure in the NGO space?
Okay, I've been in different setups of different foundations over a space of uh, since about 2006, and our recent one is Foundation Structures, that was created in 2012, and seeing, you know, we're in the live event chat today talking about foundation structures. That's predominantly where I'm going to be basing all my figures and everything around. So over the, you know, the last few years, we've had hundreds and thousands of foundations setups, and we've been able to help so many different people in this NGO space. Not only have we helped small business restructures, but we've actually helped million-dollar corporate companies restructure their businesses also. So it's not just for small businesses or, you know, individuals. It's for people that are in million-dollar turnover companies each year that are wanting to be able to make other choices on where their funds go also.
Yeah, and it's even. I mean, I've really worked out that it comes down to it's even employees. You know, if you've got in a job, it's you know, applicable to them as well now, which I think is pretty cool. And I'm sure I'm going to ask. I've got some more questions I want to ask about that.
Yeah, and no worries.
We've just got a bit of feedback. I've got someone repeating. Do you guys just want to unplug your mics and put them back in again on your computers? Or it seems like I hear myself repeating. Testing,
Okay,
testing. Still
how's
going.
that?
Somebody's mic is going through the.
I lost sound, Tom.
Oh, okay. How's that now? No, okay, it's good now. It's Graham. There's no repeating
Can you hear me now?
Yep, perfect. Yep. Let's carry on. This technology is still very temperamental, isn't it? Okay. So, so what is the difference between? Oh, this is a real good question for you, Graham. And what is the difference between the public sector and the private sector? I think that's a really good question for you. I'm just going to bring up a slide, actually. I'll just bring up that slide that you told me to bring up. I'll just share my screen, guys.
It's working.
Here's this slide. Can't find it. It's normally here. Oh, here we go. All right, found it.
Tom, I don't think
Right.
Graham can hear you.
Oh, okay. Graham, you might need to. Can you hear us now? No, might need to just go and configure your microphone on your. I just have to configure his microphone again. It's his headphones. He'll get it. Can you hear us, Graham? No. I'll just unplug the
Doesn't matter.
Just unplug. Yeah, okay. You can hear us now, though, can't you? Doesn't matter. All right, cool. We can hear you, Graham. He can't hear us, can he?
Okay. I seem to be missing some audio, so I can't hear anything that's happening on there. But if you'd like to pop the slide up, I'm happy to talk through it.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to you just need to go to the mic and output settings on your computer and change.
Just the are you going to put the slide up, Tom?
Yeah, I will put the slide up. That's how you solve the problem.
It worked perfectly yesterday, Tom.
We did do a sound test yesterday and it was going well. That's all good. Internet is temperamental.
Tom, we seem to have no slide up.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up. I'm just waiting for Graham to see if he can fix his computer.
Okay, so now that I've got this slide up there, and I'm apologising if I'm talking over somebody because I have no audio coming in right this moment, but this is a slide that I use quite regularly to try to explain the difference between a public entity and a private entity. So forget things like public companies and private companies. Let's just talk about the difference between a public entity and a private entity. So on the left-hand side of that picture, you'll see that I've listed things that you might be already familiar with. Firstly, we have companies. We have public companies that are usually designated with a LTD on the end of them. So your BHPs, your Commonwealth Bank, your Westpac, NAB are all public companies that are listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. You then have what is quite confusingly called a private company. So a lot of you in business might operate your business through a private company, which is a PTY LTD designation on the end. Let's not confuse that with a private entity. So that's a fairly traditional business structure. We then have various trusts. Trusts can be described in probably 3 different groups: discretionary or family trusts, usually used for a particular family unit; a unit or fixed trust, which are often used in a partnership combination; or a hybrid trust, which is, as the name suggests, a bit of a combination of the two. Then, alternatively, People might set up their businesses as a partnership, which is more commonly a partnership of individuals. They may also just simply be sole traders, which means that they carry on their business in their own name and that they'll obtain an ABN in that name. Also included in the public list is public foundations. Once again, the terminology can be a little confusing, but these are registered charities, or what we call DGRs, or deductible gift recipients. A DGR is something that you can donate to and receive a tax deduction. So when you donate to the Surf Lifesaving Club or the Red Cross, then that's actually donating to a DGR. Also, let's not confuse that with a private foundation, which I'll come to in a minute. Next on the list is the self-managed super funds, or just superannuation generally, which are all public entities. And all of those things are characterised by one or more of the following, and that is that they all have an ACN, which is an Australian company number issued by ASIC, or they have an ABN, Australian business number, or a TFN, which is a tax file number issued by the Australian Taxation Office. Now, in all cases, you don't get those without applying. So what we say is that when you apply for those numbers, you're actually agreeing to comply with the rules and regulations that are stipulated to you by the ATO and ASIC. So what if there was an alternative way of doing things? And we're obviously aware of private business structures as an alternative. The two structures that are held in the private are private foundations, where people are able to carry on their enterprises and transact similar to what they would do using any of those public entities, and a private trust, which is where an asset like real estate can be owned in the private and outside of the jurisdiction of the ATO and ASIC. Of course, a private foundation and a private trust don't have an ACN, ABN, or tax file number, so therefore you do not apply for those. Therefore, the argument is that you don't need to comply with those rules and regulations. Hopefully that gives you a snapshot of what alternative business structures are available to us, and comparing some of those that you might already be aware of with some of the ones that you are now aware of and might want to consider as part of your part of the way you do business.
Yeah, that's powerful. When I saw that slide, can you hear us, Graham, now? No, you can't hear us.
The question just on the private trust. So the private trust is specifically set up to own those assets. So it's a bit of a unique structure in that it's quite similar to a trust that you might sit in the public, but it's specially designed and created. We've had a fair bit of input into that, both foundation structures and new call accounting, in designing the structure in conjunction with our lawyers, our solicitors, who have helped us to create a structure that is very effective for particularly holding real estate assets.
Yep. Hey, Kelly, I think...
is there anything else, Tom, you wanted me to cover in that space?
No, not at the moment. I just feel like we need to sort out this audio problem. We need to sort out you being able to hear us. Yeah, I think because are you guys in the same office right now?
No, Graham's inside. I'm outside.
Yeah, I think let's just continue the call through on your computer, Kelly.
Okay,
just,
I'll go.
Yeah,
I'll go into the office. Hang on a second.
You guys can join forces.
Hang on.
When two become one. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen there, and let's carry on. So I've got the next question here.
Hang on a second, Tom.
Cool.
Okay.
So you can just turn off Graham's Hangout window.
Yeah.
And then let's, yay, two become one. There you guys are. Hello.
Hi.
Cool. All right, awesome. So,
yeah, interestingly enough, my sound was working fine until I unplugged it.
Oh, it's all good.
Never mind.
This is good. So now, next Next question. So thanks very much for showing us that slide, or I showed the slide, but talking us through that slide. One of the questions that was really pressing for me is, why do you think so many people, why do you think so many people have been operating in the private foundation space? Because there's a lot of people doing this now, isn't it? It's like a...
Yeah, there is. And I think what I certainly discuss with clients is not so much us telling them what, the way that they should operate their business, but at least giving them a choice. And I really believe it's all about choice. And so when people are given a choice, then, and it works for them, and they can see how they can physically operate and conduct their affairs, then I feel that that's probably the biggest thing. People are now given a choice and are taking that choice. They're going, well, I'm done with what's been happening in the past. It doesn't fit comfortably with me. I don't resonate with it in any shape or form. So now I'm feeling much more comfortable operating in a space where I have more control over my cash flows, rather than handing it over to organisations that they don't have faith in the distribution of those funds.
I think that was a big thing for me. Like, I wanted to be in complete control of the energy that I put out there, and these private foundations allow me to do that. So another question, I got this for Kelly, is why do a lot of questions that people ask me is, why didn't I know about this sooner? And that was the question that I was asking you guys, like, why didn't I know about this sooner? Why wasn't I informed? Why didn't that happen? Like, I've been bashing through the bush for the last 10 years trying to work this stuff out.
Well,
now I feel like that there's a massive clearing in the jungle.
You've only been doing it for 10 years, mate. I've been in this game for a lot longer than that, and I wish I'd have known about it a lot sooner as well.
So to answer your question, Tom, to make it short and sweet, it's really not in the best interest of the government to let everybody know about, when you're actually applying for something, that you then have to comply. And so if you don't actually make that application for an ABN or an ACN or a TFN, well, then you don't have to comply to all the legislations, the acts, and everything that's a part of what a private foundation stands for.
Yeah, I went on this massive path of understanding what legalese and the maritime law and all these lawyer jargons and court jargon that we all get freaked out by, and now I completely get a lot of it now, and I'm just like, oh, that really makes a lot more sense now. Now I'm less fearful. It really is an empowerment process, so it's cool.
Totally, and fear is a major factor in the re-educating of the entity that's wanting to be learning more information about what a private foundation is, what's the compliance, how do we stand, how does that work. And that's why when anybody wants to get a foundation set up by Foundation Structures, we support them the whole way through, right from the start to the end of where they're completely satisfied with where their current business is situated, and that if they require any more assistance or support, that we are there on the 1300 Foundation number.
Awesome. So I'm just going to quickly check. All right. Next question. And guys, I've got some more questions, and then we'll go through and answer the questions on the live stream page as well. So how many people are doing this? Kelly, let's go for you first and then go through you after.
You know what, it's a really hard question to actually answer, Tom. There would, the first time that it was actually brought into Australia was in 2006. And since then, there has been literally hundreds and thousands, 50,000 plus.
People are flocking.
all around Australia, from small tiny country towns to the big suburban suburbs to cities, Brisbane, Melbourne, Perth, Sydney, Darwin, Adelaide, Hobart, everywhere, ACT, they're coming out everywhere, and there's not one day that goes past that you're not getting called 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times depending on the day on what a private foundation is, and how do I set one up, or how can you help me, or how can it best suit me, and people just wanting to take back control of their life. Honestly, that's the biggest thing, that they're going, I just really want to have more control over where my finances go. And I say, well, you have come to the right place, because we're here to support you.
Graham, go for it, mate.
Well,
yeah, how many people are doing this? And as a registered accountant?
From my perspective and personal involvement, since 2009, by getting involved myself, I was then consulted by a variety of groups who came to me with questions about how they transition from public to private, or how they manage the public and private side by side, or whatever. And I've never actually kept an accurate record, but I believe I've probably sat in front of more than 600 people in a one-on-one sort of environment in a consultation to help them understand that process. So that's just me alone personally. So there's certainly some groundswell of interest in this space, and I suppose the combination of foundation structures and new call accounting provides people, certainly has provided people and continues to provide people with all the answers that they need to be able to make some really informed decisions about how they want to run their businesses and how they want to operate their lives, basically, moving forward.
And it's really cool. If I might just add, Tom, that between Graham and myself, we've also created other entities that support contractors and employees in a space, so that they can actually utilise the fulfilment of what a foundation is, which I think that you're going to touch on a little bit later on in the
I've got that question up.
And where Graham sits, he actually strategically specialises in helping people utilise what areas we have available for them as a vehicle, so that they can actually use to gain more control also. So that's really, really exciting and empowering.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, I know in the programming world, like, our empowerment, a program is just another language, but those languages, is what controls us, or is what allows us new opportunities. And when there's a new programming language, people just flock to it. And it's the same with all this. Like, there's a lot of terms that were new to me about 10 months ago, and it's a whole new language. Basically, it's a whole level of terminology. And it's, and the secret is just brushing up on this terminology, or understanding this terminology, and then it's pretty cool. So I wanted to ask a question: how do people get started in a foundation?
So we have the first three steps in getting started, and that is acquiring a net banking ID number with the bank that we bank with, and that's the Commonwealth Bank. The net banking ID number, all you need to do is walk into a Commonwealth Bank and ask to be ID'd, and you just need a driver license or a passport, and make sure that all the required documentations are autographed or signed, whatever terminology you choose to use. And then on the spot, you'll be given an 8-digit net banking ID number. This is not a bank account, because you do not need a bank account. You just need to be an authorised representative using that 8-digit ID number to access the non-for-profit, non-government, self-assessing, tax-exempt organisation, which we call a private foundation. And number two, you then need to choose a unique name for the foundation. We now need to keep in mind that the foundation is not yours. It does not belong to you. It is the foundation. It is owned by itself. You are purely holding the space and creating a purpose that can be carried out throughout the foundation. And thirdly is to make payment in full via our shopping cart on our website. Normally people come to the website via our affiliates. We have 13 trained affiliates that support and look after their clients in bringing them through the foundation space. They all have been trained by myself and Graham, and also work very, very closely with us on a day-to-day basis with our new legislation, laws and different whatever laws or stuff that they want to just bring in that, without anybody's acknowledgement or vote or whatever the case may be.
You've got a slide here that, do you want me to bring this slide up?
That would be great.
Okay. Where is it? Share screen. There we go, let's start.
Yeah, so we have 3 different packages.
Okay.
So we have 3 different packages. One of the packages is a blue package, and it's an everyday foundation for anybody that's just wanting to convert their whole business into a private foundation, be it a massage therapy business, anything that doesn't require an ABN or an ACN. And then we have a orange package, which is the hybrid model. Now, the hybrid model is where a foundation works in with a proprietary limited company needing an ABN or an ACN. Now, this package is a little bit more expensive due to the extensive time that's actually spent in helping the client or the principal participant of the foundation get clear on what they need to do and how they need to go about it. The next one is the family and friends package. Now, the family and friends package is discounted and only for 7 days after the introductory of a principal participant within that 7 days of them creating and setting up a foundation for their life purpose.
All right, cool. So next question is, how does a foundation function?
How does a foundation function? Well, each individual, situation is rather different. But when established a foundation, you and anybody else that are connected become a principal participant of a foundation. As a principal participant, you have full operation abilities, including finances of the foundation. Therefore, the foundation supports you at your discretion. Okay. It's not at anybody else's discretion. It's not filling in any other documentation. The foundation is not required to pay tax or hold records for such purpose. The foundation invoices other organisations without GST or other taxes, and the foundation purchases without GST or other taxes. Now, I just want to clarify that. Some people say, oh, well, can I now go and buy a car and not have to pay GST? We really need to be mindful of where we're actually sitting and sitting in integrity, so that other people, like a car, let's use a car as an analogy for a minute. The car salesperson needs to pay GST on that car. So we've actually gone and done this on many car yards and gone, okay, here's our NAT 3346, here's a NAT 74141 that supports the NAT 734.
And those are tax documents that we have to supply, don't we, when we're purchasing things, or when the foundation's purchasing things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But because they've actually paid GST and we want to actually still support them, you then have to make a choice. You now have a choice whether you want to actually pay GST from that car yard, or whether you want to go and buy a private, through a private sale, and buy a car from an online Gumtree ad or carsales.com or whatever the case may be. Just keeping that in mind. So like, you can't walk into Woolies and buy your bread and milk and say, oh, I don't want to pay GST on that. Well, you know what, there's about 15 different taxes of GST in 1 litre of milk. So, we just need to just know that we have our options, Well,
it's what's practical, basically.
Totally what's practical.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is we're also dealing with, this is new language and the evolution of accounting, and, a lot of the population, they're not ready for this stuff, or, you can jump into a high level conversation and all of a sudden, it's like, oh, there's a whole lot of stigma about, and it's not worth having.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right, I've got another smashing question. How long does this actually take, this whole process?
Okay, so from the time that payment is received into the foundation bank account with foundation structures, it's a minimum of 2 days and a maximum of 5 days. Now, this is within 5 working days of when the client has completed the foundation setup link that is emailed to them via email by Ashley in our head office here in Springwood.
Cool. So, and what would people receive from foundation structures as a support service so that they can operate the foundation successfully?
Yep. Okay. So
I know, guys, on the list, there's a lot of new terminology here, and you know, you will slowly. It does sink in after a while. So yeah, it's all a whirlwind at first.
Yeah, so what we do is we assist people in the comprehension of the difference between what a foundation and a public corporation is and how the two operate with each other or independently so you get the best outcome. We also supply the do's and don'ts of a successfully operating a foundation. What else? We have the public and private terminologies that can define how you operate a foundation in the private, which is a biggie, which is what you were just talking about then, Tom. Okay. We also do why tax is a voluntary system and what that means to you. That's a big one for people when they actually hear that tax is voluntary in Australia. They go, oh no, it can't be. You know, I've been paying tax my whole life, and this is where the massive fear comes in, Tom. But fortunately for us, we've actually been able to get some printouts and some hard copy documentation. We've also got High Court rulings from judges ruling that the ATO is actually a fraudulent entity, and it was actually never set up correctly in the day when it was actually set up.
So I mean, what I find really funny is when people start saying things like that, I just send them the the ATO guideline document. I just send it to them, and it says, like, in the fourth sentence, tax is a voluntary process. So I find it hilarious that there's this huge different opinion about the old big tax word. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I just have a couple of more other little points. We also help people interpret what the Articles of Association is. Some people might know the Articles of Association as a constitution, which is based around how you actually want to run a business or a hobby or whatever the case may be, whatever the reason or the purpose that you actually want a foundation for, we actually help you interpret how that looks for you. And the documents that we actually use are a generic document. They're all the same. And then people, go, well, I just want to put my own personal touch into the document. So we actually help them and guide them in doing an amendment or,
I think that's really important, that part, because that's the real personal foundation part of the whole business.
Well, so people have their divine purpose in why they're actually there in the first place, and they want to make that unique for themselves. So we also help guide them in that process as well.
That's what I found really powerful for me. Like, literally for the first time, I mean, it's like on the invitation video on this whole event. It made it very clear what the foundation of why I'm on this planet was for now, and that was really to empower people. It was not for any being a slave to any other entity or anything. It was, I'm truly standing on this planet now, and I'm living my purpose, and I've got my bank's in line with what I'm trying to do. I've got a group of people around me that's in line with what I'm trying to do. It was this real recognition of this is what I'm really doing. I mean, there's a lot of people that work in big companies or they work in their own business, and there's things that they have to do, and they don't truly resonate with those actions. And now every day I wake up and I truly resonate with the actions that I do every single day. So it's a real powerful action. I'm sitting on a chair, like, lying back, but it really feels powerful. Like, and I get very passionate about that. So it's very cool.
Yeah, and in saying that, just in addition, we also have a list of affiliate partners who provide, public accounting, like Graham from New Call Accounting and other services. We've got people in the financial services department. We've got people in law firms
we have in banking, we have a plethora of people in, debt elimination, for unsecured debt, a whole heap of people.
Unsecured debt, guys, there's another term to research. All right, so I know it helped me out with my debts. So, so I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to direct the microphone over to Graham, and can people have the same name as their PTY Ltd in a private foundation?
Yeah, the answer is that they can, but we generally don't recommend that they do. There's quite a, I think when people understand the real difference between a public and a private entity, they just literally vibrate on different levels. So having the name connected is generally not the answer. Having said that, it really depends on the circumstances of the business, sort of where their branding is held. Do they need to have a public entity in the first place? So there's a whole lot of questions there, but generally the short answer is we recommend that they not be the same.
Yeah. Okay. And so, do people have to pay tax operating a tax-exempt, self-assessing, non-government organisation, a foundation?
Okay. So, just to clarify, there's a number of different taxes that we pay, and I'm not getting too deep into excises and state governments and things like that. But let's just talk about income tax and GST. On the income tax side, a private foundation is not registered with the ATO. It does not hold an ABN or a tax file number, and therefore that jurisdiction does not apply. If that foundation, however, goes out and buys goods and services like we were talking about earlier, and the person they're buying those goods and services from is registered in the tax system with an ABN and charges GST, then the foundation will pay GST. But do they pay income tax? Absolutely not.
Yeah, how many taxes are there in Australia? What, 200? I don't know. How many?
Plenty.
I think last count there was well over in hundreds of thousands of different legislations, and not one is making this world a better place, let me tell you.
So, yeah, everyone's paying their fair share, that's for sure. Like just going and buying a carton of milk or the bread, there's 10 or 15 taxes just in that process. So, don't have that fear. That's what I'm pointing out. So our next question is, can people hold physical assets with a foundation?
Yeah. Have you got there is a slide that I think you're going to call up.
I've got a magic slide here. Yes, I do.
There we go.
I've got some electrons to show you.
Awesome. So when we're talking about assets, firstly, there's different types of assets. Of course, you've got financial assets. So you've got your, bank accounts, term deposits, even physical precious metals, things like that. And those can certainly be held in the name of the foundation. Real estate is what I would call a registrable asset, and that means that it's held on a government register. So things like cars, boats, caravans, and real estate in particular tend to be what we call registrable, and therefore generally can't be held in the name of the foundation. So one of the things I mentioned a little bit earlier was the existence of a private trust for holding particularly real estate assets and other assets that increase in value over time. So the private trust is structured quite uniquely in that, for those people who are familiar with trust structures generally, they'll always know that there's a trustee and a beneficiary. In the private trust, it's no different. The trustee in this particular case is a PTY Ltd company, or a private company that holds an ACN with ASIC but has no ABN or tax file number. That allows the asset to be registered and placed on the Land Titles Office registers or whatever. The trust itself is the operating entity, and the beneficiary in this particular case is a private foundation. So for each real estate asset, you would hold potentially in a separate private trust, and there's reasons for that we can discuss in a different time. But that's fundamentally the structure, and that allows us to hold assets in the private, once again, that private trust does not register with the ATO with an ABN or a tax file number, and therefore doesn't fall into the jurisdiction that would apply for income tax on income, such as rent, or even potentially capital gains on the sale of that asset later on.
All right, that's a mouthful. Some of it went over my head, but you know, I'm slowly understanding it more and more. I mean, I get it completely, really, but yeah, there's a lot of crossing between private trusts and private foundations, and
there is, and I think it's discussion for purpose. So when people have that need, the first thing, and that's generally something that I would consult with the client and determine what the most optimal structure is, and if that structure is a private trust, then we'll obviously go into that detail. There's other considerations such as finance capabilities and a whole range of things that need to be considered before we make the call as to whether that's the right structure for that client.
Yeah, and I mean the basic the real rule out of this is if you want to have an asset and that is it needs to be regulated, like a car with registration or a boat, like the example you said. Basically, that's when a private trust is needed. Really.
Could be, yes.
Could be. All right, cool. All right, so I've got a question for the accountant, Graham. So, you know, if people who are starting a new business, you know, how would you suggest it be set up? Like a new business, let's take, for example, a hypnosis business. I think that's a good one.
The decision as to what the most optimal business structure is fundamentally a question that I generally ask at the very beginning, and that is, do I require to hold an ABN or a tax file number to carry on my trade? So a good example of that could be an accounting practice, for example, who, due to it requiring certain government licenses and insurances and other things, does in fact require an ABN to carry on a business. So if it was something like that, then we would need to look at a public structure and connect a private foundation in the way in which we call the hybrid model. If you're doing something like your hypnosis business, then it's quite possible and quite probable, in fact, that you don't need an ABN to carry on that business, and therefore you would potentially be able to set that up entirely in the private. So it's really just an analysis of each individual circumstance, and then once we have that information, we can direct people as to what the best structure for them is.
Yeah. So I know that we've got a lot of miners on the call as well, and a lot of them are contractors. But how can foundations basically work for miners or people who do contracting? I've got another slide here, so I'll bring that up for you guys. Kelly, I'm going to throw this one over to you.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Okay, so in working closely with Graham from New Call Accounting, we had a lot of clients saying, you know, I'm a contractor, they're not accepting my invoice from the foundation for services rendered. How can I utilise the foundation? I'm needing insurances, I'm needing this, that, the other, work cover, a whole heap of different things. So what we did is we created an entity called Indico International, and Indico International is an independent contracting agency that acts for and on behalf of the foundation as the principal participant carrying out services that is unique to them. So if you're an electrician and you are a part of a foundation and they're not accepting the invoice from the foundation, then what you do is you get in contact with Alicia from Indico International. And what Alicia will do is she will then go through, you know, a snapshot of where you're currently at and how she can best help you in this space. And 9 times out of 10, we get everybody across the line and get them connected in with a self-assessable agreement and an independent contractors agreement. And so you can actually see in the diagram here that the foundation puts in either an invoice or a timesheet into Indico, and then Indico will then send out a tax invoice for and on behalf of that foundation's records that they've actually emailed through into Alicia. Therefore, the contractor that they've just actually put in services rendered for the week or the fortnight or the month, then get GST added, okay, and then payments made back into Indico. Indico has a small admin fee for processing of the invoice, and then funds then get dispersed directly into the foundation, GST and tax-free. In that space, there is actually a setup fee for Indico, and that's basically to set up the independent contractors agreement and the self-assessing agreements before everybody gets started.
That's a real workaround.
Yeah, it is.
But it saves money. Saves energy.
Yeah. Well, people get to actually take back financial control of their life. They get to choose where their funds go.
All right, so that's pretty powerful. I've got the next question for Graham. So if I'm employed, so for people who are employed, are there many benefits? And what's the solution for employed people? And this is not contractors, but employed people.
So we've got that slide there, yeah. So what became evident to us was that there were a number of people who needed to either for insurance purposes in certain states, and also where they required to show personal taxable income as an employee, that the Indico model was evolved into a separate entity called D&H Australia. And D&H Australia basically facilitates those clients that need to be employed. And so fundamentally the same system works that we showed you a minute ago with Indico. However, D&H will then employ the individual for a certain amount and then connect the balance as the Indico model showed. So it's actually a fairly recent evolvement that now ensures that anyone who can contract can play this game. And that's really powerful and includes a whole lot of people that couldn't have otherwise done it.
And employers do love this because it makes it simpler for them. I know, as an employer,
I can literally talk to you about a situation that happened yesterday, where we had exactly that situation, where a client is going to basically plug into this. The people that they're intending to work for are over the moon. They're extremely happy with the professionalism and the documentation, and the client is now able to take back massive control over their finances and their cash flows. So it's a great add-on to our suite of services that allows a lot more people to actually participate in connecting with the private foundation.
And just in addition to that, Tom, a lot of people go, well, if I'm contracting as a contractor via Indico and I don't have like personal income as such, how can I apply for a home loan? Or, how can I get a personal loan if I'm needing cash fast or wanting to do something over and above the norm? So, with this PAYG space, people, if they're on, let's say, $250,000 a year and they only want to claim for $100,000 of that a year as an employee, the other additional estimated $150,000 then gets invoiced into the foundation. So you're only actually paying PAYG tax on $100,000.
Comes back to that choice thing again, doesn't it? People can choose the way they manage that.
Yeah.
It's all about options. I mean, and this is given me options, and just an example is one of the things I'm working on is the Life Bubbles Eco Village. I can direct a lot of funds into this whole system now, which is, it's just an example of other options you can do with the energy that you create or the money that you create. And that's what we do. I mean, I know you, Kelly and Graham, you guys sings and you got the charity going. And it's, it's empowerment again. It's this whole process. Like, you finally, instead of working really hard and sending money off to people who don't know how to spend it or spend it inefficiently. I mean, I think they do their best job, then you can start, spending a bit of time, working out how the best way to distribute those funds for, the different charities or different things you want to do.
Yeah.
So next, so what are the fees for foundations? Are there any ongoing fees? This is what really got me, actually. Like, this is what I love about it, is that, with private foundations, there are no ongoing fees, which I love. So that I don't have a requirement to do, that the foundation has to continue to do bookkeeping and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, Kelly, go for it. It was a big.
So when getting a foundation set up with foundation structures, there's only one fee, and that's the first fee that you actually pay to getting the foundation set up. That comes with the bank account, that comes with support, that comes with everything that's required of the individual, the principal participant / volunteer that is going to have the full operation abilities of the foundation. And you can see the 3 different packages that we spoke about previously before.
So Kelly just spoke, so we just spoke about employers and contractors. So, I mean, I operate completely in the private space now, so there's no fees at all for me. So that was it for me. But people who operate the hybrid model, because they're still operating a little bit in the public space, there are basically whenever you're operating a little bit in public space, there's still going to be a few, ongoing fees to deal with that whole public thing. I mean, we all know that we all spend too much on accounting, and around the world, there's so much that goes into finance. There's not enough an actual real, stuff on the ground being done, and so we still have to, spend money on dealing with the public sector, but nowhere near as much. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, it is, and I think part of that process, certainly with any new clients that come through our door, is that we try to look at what they currently have, and more importantly, what they need, and simplify the entities that they might have. So if they have to retain an entity in the public to carry on a certain trade, then accountants, unfortunately, are prolific at setting up business structures that clients don't understand. So one of the first things I like to do is to actually say, well, why do we need all of these, and let's carve off the ones we don't. So there may still be some compliance requirements depending on what those structures look like, in that there's still probably some GST returns to be done and tax returns to be done, ASIC fees to be paid and things like that. But we certainly look to try to minimise the compliance cost to the client, regardless of which model they choose.
And I think that, it depends on what industry people are in, but if they, have to go because of their industry into the hybrid model, I would say that the end goal is to eventually move into businesses where you can move completely private, where you don't have fees anymore. And I know that's definitely the goal for you guys, what you guys have been trying to move people towards. And that's what I've been trying to do as well ever since I found out about this stuff. So yeah, that's like, if you need to operate in the public just to survive, sure, go for it. But then, let's talk about how we can move you to completely private, so you don't have to have all these ongoing fees.
Yep.
All right. So next question, what are the fees? I answered that. Next question for Kelly, can a non-resident of Australia set up a foundation?
Yes, they can. They can actually, a non-resident can take their passport to be ID'd, to get a net banking ID number, and get that within 15, 20 minutes of being with the bank clerk. And in saying that, we've actually even had the opportunity of having international ID processes set up, which Tom, there's a link there. Do you want to just pop that up?
Is this the link that I've got now, this page?
Let me just go. Oh, yeah, that's the international foundation page. So let's just briefly go on this. We're actually working with people in New Zealand at the moment. So what we're getting them to do is whatever's closer to them, the Australian Embassy, the Consulate of Australia, or the ASB Bank. We've actually had success with the ASB Bank in getting photo ID, working in with the Commonwealth Bank, which is the sister bank in New Zealand, and they communicate with the Commonwealth Bank here in Australia, and they can still be living in New Zealand and operate a foundation very successfully. We actually, I think it was about 6 weeks ago, had one open in Canada. We also had another one opened in Thailand. We had another one opened in France. And there was one, 2, 3 in Bali, Japan, and no, not Japan. Sorry, there's one coming for Japan. Sorry, and yeah, it's just getting bigger and bigger as the word gets out there.
Yeah.
In saying that, we can also hold the foreign currency accounts within the foundations, and as people can see online there, we've got the Canadian Swiss francs, the Danish euro, pound sterling, Hong Kong dollar, the South African rand, the yen, we've got the krone, we've got the New Zealand dollar, the New Guinea kina, which, yeah, is on its way out. It's just sitting on the fence there, the New Guinea kina. The Swedish krone, Singapore dollar, the Thai baht, and the USD.
That was one of the things that I use, the USD.
Yeah.
And so I've got a USD, account.
Yeah. So we've had some really good success, and that process now is just getting bigger and bigger every single day.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, it's, I go and have a conversation with somebody, and then they, their minds open up or widen about, what's possible, and then they go and have a conversation, and then some random person's giving me a call up saying, "What's this all about?" And yeah, I mean, this is just slowly flourishing. I think it's at the point where it's going to start flourishing much faster. But this is stuff that's been around for years. That's what I find crazy. I just didn't know about it. All right.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So next question, Kelly. So can people have an EFTPOS terminal, like merchant facility, with a foundation attached to the foundation account?
Yes, you can. We have had amazing success working with a third party and the Commonwealth Bank in getting the Albert terminals, or you can actually just have the everyday normal terminal that you see everywhere. In saying that, this is a unique process. We have actually had people go, well, I'm not paying you to get me an EFTPOS terminal, it's free at the bank, whatever the case may be. And I've gone, yeah, no worries, okay, good luck, and have do what you can in getting that application across the line, and every single time they've always come back and said, you know what, they've rejected me. Why did they reject me? I was like, you know what, you really, really honestly need to know what you're doing. You need to give them the right answers that they're actually after. And people, go, oh, we don't need an ABN number, and some, people that are, the applicants that is helping you, getting these terminals. They're there to help you, and some people get their backs up because they're, in that space of, I am, able to get one of these things. Why can't you give it to me? And because they're not answering the questions correctly. And we actually, if you
it's all in the terminology, isn't it? It's all in that.
Totally, it is.
It's a whole
so
level of language.
Yeah, I've been in international banking for many, many years, and knowing the terminology and the right departments in speaking to get applications over the line. We pretty well much guarantee an EFTPOS terminal for each application, and that's if you don't have bad credit, because we can't support anybody that has bad credit with a bank, because they do their own background checks and whatever the case may be. However, in saying that, we've actually been able to get EFTPOS terminals for people that are bankrupt, that are principal participants of a foundation, so they can still operate their business, so they're not having to show figures to the trustee of their bankruptcy or whatever the case may be, and they're now still all living a very fruitful life and still going on with the carry-ons of their business.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
And just to quickly touch on that a little bit, there are other people that are helping people set up FPOS terminals with the Westpac Bank, and we've had quite a number of people actually come to us, over this last 12 months, saying, oh, I have an FPOS terminal, and we've actually gone through the whole application processes, and the processes in that space stipulate that they actually have a TFN, which is their own personal TFN, attached to that application process. Now, the funds may be going into the foundation bank account, but if at all that individual is audited, because their TFN number is actually attached to the application for the foundation, that is, those funds that is going into that bank account is classed as income tax for the individual and will be treated as such. I think Graham will expand on that.
Yeah, we've had a lot of clients who have, as Kel said, have been set up with alternative providers in the private foundation space who have used Westpac, and which we used to do ourselves going back many years. But Kelly and her team have forged ahead with the Commonwealth and have got such a wide variety of banking products now available to our clients that it really blows Westpac out of the water. But you just got to be so careful about which entity earns that income, and if the income is connected to a person's tax file number or ABN, the ATO will assess that person regardless of where the money gets banked.
Yeah.
So I've had people that have stood up on the and said, no, this is definitely right, this is what they told me, and then by the time we end up proving it, they'll see that there's an ABN connected, and therefore that shoots the whole thing in the foot. So, and
people have left in tears, absolutely, literally. Oh, we thought we were doing the right thing, and this is how this has happened, and we thought that this was the right thing, and we're going, well, it is. It's just been set up incorrectly because nobody's supported that process in getting that application over the line. So what we do is we put our neck on the line, and we do the process from start to finish. So
that's what it's all about. It's just about supporting the client to get the outcome that they want, but making sure that the structure works and it's not going to come back and be a problem for them later on. And that's really what certainly the foundation structures and new core businesses are all about, is helping people to achieve their outcomes in the most efficient way.
So in summary, basically FPOS machines are possible. But just the big watch out is make sure you don't link up a TFN tax file number to the FPOS bank account, which is what's happened with Westpac customers in the past. And
it happens now, happens today. It's still happening.
Still happening,
The Westpac documentation and structure cannot allow an FPOS facility to be allocated without connecting it to an ABN. So you cannot,
or a TFN.
You cannot get a Westpac facility that's not connected to an ABN or a TFN.
I spoke to a lady last night, and she was telling me she had a not-for-profit private foundation. She did it through Bendigo Bank, but again, the problem was that she had to have an ABN attached to that bank account, which is another issue, same issue.
Major issue.
Yeah. Anyway, so next question. I've lost my questions. Where are they gone?
Lucky last, number 21.
All right, here it is. Can people have, this is the service I took up. Can people have merchant accounts, internet merchant accounts with these foundations?
Absolutely. They're a payment gateway, and what it is, it allows them to receive MasterCard, Visa card, and I think in some of the applications we can actually get different other cards like American Express and stuff like that be accepted via your own, via the foundation's own process. So, and this process, can take up to 7 to 14 days in that whole application process, depending on how long the wait is at the bank or at the third-party merchant that's providing the links and the information. we did one probably around about 2 months ago, and it only came through probably, I think, late last week or midweek, and that's the longest it has ever taken, and that's because there's just been a backlog of work for whatever the department is that processes the applications, but normally it's not that long.
All right. I'll stop sharing my screen. And I just want to say thank you very much for doing this groundwork in Australia. I mean, I've been always off overseas, staying away from this highly regulated country that we live in at the moment. And then I made it on a mission to come back and try and start, let's empowering and start pushing the wave. I kind of think of it like regulations just like a car swerving down a road. Sometimes it just goes way off on the right-hand side, and there's a lot of red tape, and then we're probably going to go way the other way and back into the wild, wild west for a while, and then we're going to have to hey, and then there's going to be another group of people saying, hey, you can't do that, you need to do this, and so we all just, us human beings, we just keep each other in check, which is pretty cool, peer-to-peer. There doesn't seem like there's any more questions, so I think we've really done it all. I think we went over time about 15 minutes, but that's because we had some technical issues. So I really want to thank everybody who's come along on the call, and thank Graham and Kelly. Both, it's cool because I know that over the years you guys have been working away at this, innovating for a long time, and then you've, it's only been recently that you've sort of joined forces and it's like the powers combined. So it's exciting. So unless there's anything else, you guys want to say, I think we'll end the call.
Yep.
And if you need to get in contact, I'm fully up for empowering this whole process. So you can either reach us at Transition Foundation, you can reach New Call Accounting, or Foundation Structures, which is foundationstructures.org. Basically, I feel like whenever you interact with these entities, it's always going to be you're always going to have a serious empowerment conversation, and you're probably going to learn something new. So, pretty cool stuff.
Awesome.
Thank you for hosting today, Tom, and connecting us all with some with some people.
Yeah. Thanks heaps, Tom. And enjoy Mackay. Don't get too hot.
Oh, I'm just sweating away right now. So this, by the way, guys, this presentation we will be streaming again. So don't worry, it's not like lost information. You will find it again, and it's probably going to be the third or the second time or the fourth time. I know for me, it took me about 20 times, listening to this type of conversation before things started going into my brain. Just again, I like to say, just touch up on your terminology, and let the conversation sink in, and then you'll start seeing how it can be applied in your life or your friend's life or family's life or a business associate, or it's just something new that's really cool. And we're all here on this planet to learn and evolve. And out of all the things I've done, this is the best way that I've seen that as humans we can evolve and we can elevate. So yeah, it's a spiritual process as well.
Yeah, cool. And one of our favourite terminologies is always be impeccable with your words. So in utilising the new terminologies and wanting to be in that space, the vibration of being over here and then coming over here to new terminologies is like vibrating off a different frequency. So it's amazing, life-changing.
And you will meet a lot of new people.
Absolutely.
We've already been doing this for many years.
and that's the best part.
That is the best part. And then we can rattle on for a long time now. You just keep meeting new people, like the Life Bubble Village and what you guys have got going on, and with your friend in Noosa, and then the charities, One Person, One Planet. There's so many things that, and we're just going to pull it. I feel like we're just slowly we're just going to pull them all through. Hey, come on, we're over here now. Come on, over here, come. And they're going to start coming over. So yeah, when they're ready, that's the other thing. Like, not everyone's ready for these conversations.
Oh, totally.
If they want to stay in their little mind prison, they can do that. That's comfortable. It's comfortable for me. I'm pretty happy with that as well.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Bye, everybody. Thanks for being on board.